Cimoooooooo!
What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm posing the question, should you buy Rise of the Duelist? Every time we get a new set, I like to cover the contents within a set review to give you guys a brief overview of everything within the product, or at least everything that should be noteworthy. So that way, if you fall into one of the three pillars, casual, competitive, or collector, then if this product appeals to you, you might want to consider purchasing this product. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now let's begin with archetypes, first of which is the new Gaia Support. Now, Gaia isn't really new. We've had Gaia the Fierce Knight and Curse of Dragon since the inception of Yu-Gi-Oh! But every once in a while, Konami likes to make throwbacks and play off the nostalgia of some of the older archetypes and give them retrains to kind of modernize these archetypes and make them more competitively appealing. Now, I definitely think this is an archetype that misses the mark in that regard. We've seen in the past with archetypes like Blue Eyes or even Dark Magician being semi-relevant at the competitive level, but I don't think with some of these cards that Gaia or Curse of Dragon or even the new Armored Catapult Turtle for anything like that. Although it is cool to see these types of cards, they definitely lean more towards the casual or even collector side of this product. Next up is Melfi. Melfi might be the cutest Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype of all time. It's very similar to Raccoons, not just because they're both beast-oriented or level 2-oriented, but just because of their playstyle. They have this very casual and very simplistic playstyle. The deck isn't actually half bad. The deck is okay for what it's worth. I think if anything, because this deck has massive swarming potential, if this deck gets the right support in the future, there could be some competitive potential here. Now, obviously, you could say that about a myriad of different strategies, but this is one you might want to keep your eye on. But moving on to some of the more hyped archetypes, the first of which being Inferno Knights. This deck is so powerful. Being able to just hand loop your opponent with old school cards like Smoke Grenade of the Thief. Who would have thought there'd be an archetype in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That would take advantage of an old card like this? It really just modernizes Noble Knights and puts them on the map. Noble Knights has kind of been notorious for being this archetype that's had so many layers of support, but really just couldn't make it to the top levels of play. It's had its moments here and there, but this is finally going to be its time to shine. It just took going in a completely different direction for it to actually get there. And for Noble Knights is very powerful because it is a combo-oriented deck that can actually play through a reasonable amount of negation, and it's able to set up multiple negates of its own on its turn 1 board and also rip cards out of your opponent's hand. So it sounds pretty degenerate. Obviously, the deck has its weaknesses, and the jury is still out as to whether or not it will see competitive play, but being the highly savage combo players that we are in the TCG, I wouldn't be too surprised to see this at the top tables. And wrapping up the archetypes, we have what, in my opinion, is going to be the most powerful archetype of the entire set, Dogmatica. Dogmatica is incredible and is going to see play, mark my words. Dogmatica is nice because it is a very flexible engine that can actually be incorporated into numerous different strategies, or you can play a very heavy Dogmatica deck that just plays other cards like hand traps and other just generically powerful cards. There's so many different axes when it comes to playing Dogmatica that I guarantee you are going to come across this deck one way or another. Dogmatica is rather unique because it takes advantage of the extra deck as a resource in a way that most decks don't really do. We've seen some cards in the past do stuff similar to this, but really never an entire archetype dedicated to it, and it kind of has a hatred towards extra deck focused strategies. It's got cards to be able to hit cards directly out of your opponent's extra deck. If monsters are on the field that were special summoned from the extra deck, you can special summon a lot of the cards. There's so much hate towards decks that rely on the extra deck, but then you can synergize this archetype with other archetypes such as Invoke, Shaddal, Eldritch, the list goes on, and take advantage of those strengths as well, and you have yourself a very formidable threat. But that's enough about archetypes. Now I want to focus on some individually powerful cards that are contained within Rise of the Duelist as well. The first of which is Triple Tactical Talent. When this card was first debuted, it created shockwaves amongst the community. A card this powerful with 3 banned effects on a single card was very frightening, and is still a card to this very day that people are afraid is going to make a huge impact. If your opponent activated a monster effect this turn, guess what? You either get to Pot of Greed, Change of Heart, or Forceful Sentry them, and that is just absolutely not okay. Even if Triple Tactical Talents doesn't see play at this exact moment, this is going to be a staple in a format at some point. This card is way too good not to see play, and if we get to a slower, more control-oriented meta, this card is going to be rampant. But if that weren't enough, we also have Forbidden Droplet, another highly anticipated card in this set, and at quick play speed, being able to negate monsters for every card you discard out of your hand, but also having the Super Poly clause where your opponent can't respond with any type of card that you discarded for this card's effect. This is going to be backbreaking for combo decks that set up their turn 1 boards. If they can't respond to this type of effect, that's going to give players the opportunity to actually break some of these boards. There's a reason this card is seeing tons of play in the OCG. It's because it is that good. The downside of Forbidden Droplet is that you have to discard numerous cards depending on how many threats you're wanting to negate, but most decks want their cards in the graveyard. Most decks have some sort of graveyard interaction or have effects that trigger in the graveyard that you're trying to get those cards to the graveyard regardless, and this card just gives you a way to catapult yourself into a winning position. Another very powerful card is Shaddal Scissor. This is basically a trap version of El Shaddal Fusion, but the thing is, not only do you get that fusion summon on your opponent's turn, but you also get to send one monster they control to the graveyard that is the same attribute as the monster that you summon. So you have some non-targeting, non-destructive removal that also proactively advances your game state that you can incorporate in numerous decks that want to take advantage of a small Shaddal engine. Another card that I don't think enough players are respecting is Ice Dragon's Prison. This is a trap card. However, the effect of Ice Dragon's Prison allows you to special summon a monster from your opponent's graveyard. You negate its effects. However, you then banish a monster on both players' fields that have the same type. So not only is this a way for you to potentially disrupt your opponent's graveyard, but you also get to banish that monster out of their graveyard and effectively banish a monster on their field as well. This card's also nice because it doesn't target or destroy, it just simply banishes, and so it's a way to bypass some protective properties of numerous annoying threats. There's also a lot of OCG imports in Rise of the Duelist. Typically in the past, we've had like 8 OCG imports per core set, but now they've upped that to 20. Unfortunately, I don't think too many of these imports are very appealing to a majority of players, albeit there are some specific ones. I think the biggest one is Odd Eye's Revolution Dragon is finally going to be legal in the TCG for all you Pendulum players out there. This has been a card that has kept Pendulum relevant in the OCG for quite some time, and while Pendulum still shows up here and there in the TCG, this is definitely going to give that deck a boost. And the last aspect I wanted to discuss is the Starlight Rares. Now, every one of these sets features 5 Starlight Rares, 4 of which come from the main set, but the 5th being a staple card that actually sees lots of play. In this set, it's DD Crow. In the last set, it was Effect Veiler. And honestly, I got to applaud Konami for going this direction, because giving a card that is basically used by almost every single player at some point or another, this type of rarity bump makes it highly desirable by all 3 pillars. The collectors are going to want it because it's Starlight Rare, the casuals are going to freak out if they open it, and the competitive players are going to want it because they want to have the max rarity at all times. So really, it's a win-win all around, and it just creates this highly desirable environment, especially at that Starlight Rare slot, when sometimes there may only be like one card that any particular group wants. Usually the staple is going to be coveted by all 3. 2020 seems to be a very good year for Yu-Gi-Oh! Product, because it seems each one of these set review videos I make, I keep acknowledging the fact that there seems to be something for everyone in each one of these products, and that's a shift that we've only seen relatively recently, so I think Konami definitely deserves some praise for that. And really, it boils down to, is this going to be a product for you? So here's a bit of buying advice. Typically, booster boxes sell for about $65 to $80 depending on your local game store. Sometimes it can be way higher than that depending on how hyped the set is, but here are some things to keep in mind. At the time of recording this video, only 5 or half of the 10 secret rares in the set are selling for over $40 or more. In addition to that, only 2 of the ultra rares are selling for over $5. And in a booster box where you're guaranteed on average to get 2 secret rares and 4 ultra rares, that means that the average value that you're going to get per box is not going to be equivalent to what you might pay for it. And again, I cannot stress this enough. This video is going up before the official release of Rise of the Duelist. This means there is not much product currently in circulation, and not many shops have cracked open their boxes. So maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even a month after this video goes up, go ahead and check the prices of those cards once again, and you may even be shocked to find that the prices of those may be even half of what they are right now. Especially with COVID and everything going on right now, there's no hurry to buy Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. Yeah, some local game stores are opening up, and if you're really itching to go out and play Yu-Gi-Oh!, that's perfectly fine. Definitely do it with caution. So if you just wait a couple weeks from now, you will be able to pick up these cards for significantly cheaper than they're going to be on the secondary market already. already. And this is why I always recommend that you guys do purchase the single cards over buying the sealed product, because you know exactly what you're getting. You're not leaving it to chance, and you're not going to be disappointed when you open a booster box and you don't get what you want, or you don't get your full value's worth. Overall, though, I definitely think the set direction that Konami is taking is going in a more positive direction. They're making a lot more cards that are more appealing to a lot more different types of players, and I hope to continue to see this moving forward. But ultimately, it boils down to buy the singles. It's going to save you money in the long run, but from an investment standpoint, if you want to keep those boxes sealed, because of the Starlight Rares and some of the value of the cards in the set, it may not be the worst idea either. So guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video helpful, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.